was much more in the west than in the east. The case fatality rate of COVID was very high in the Western countries, and it has been consistently low in the Eastern countries. And one of the major items that was noticed in India was the case fatality rate is very low as compared to a number of other European countries or in the US, or even compared to Russia. In India, the case fatality rate was very, very high in a state like Punjab, because Punjab has lost a lot of the original advantages associated with nutrition, unfortunately, to their lifestyle. Drinking, drug addiction, fast foods, etc. So my request to all of you, as very enthusiastic young ladies, future mothers and housemakers or homemakers or whatever, please focus on nutrition to a very great extent. And all of you have the ability in you to live up to more than 120, as I often tell you, to do it. It's possible. There is a gentleman who got Padma Shri because he is now only 125 years in our country. I'm very happy that a very dear friend, Dr. Bhanu Prakash Reddy, whom I have known in the last 3 to 4 years, thanks to a group started by us called the Health is Wealth Group. I administer a group called Health is Wealth, of which Dr. Bhanu Prakash Reddy is a very energetic participant. He has also been enlightening us about a number of programs, including the SCOPE program, with which he is closely associated. The SCOPE program is being spearheaded by Government of India Department of Science and Technology, the NIT Warangal, of which Dr. Bhanu Prakash Reddy is a prominent member of this program and advisor. So I'm very happy that Dr. Bhanu Prakash Reddy is with us, and I request him to kindly share his thoughts on whatever he thinks is right for these young ladies and their families. Dr. Bhanu Prakash Reddy, I'm sure, will be willing to take questions after the presentation, or perhaps, if you like, even during the presentation, when you think that there are some doubts to be clarified. I request you, sir, to kindly help us. You can sit and speak. It's up to you. I mean, we don't want you to be put to inconvenience. Tirupati. This is a nutritious basket. I'm sure it is nutritious, sir, in tune with your advice. My first advice to all the students is stop consuming cold drinks, stop going to fast food centers, and your longevity will increase without any other thing by at least 10-15 years. No, I wait. No, let him be. I feel tired, I'll the wiring Jagrata. Be here. Yep, sir. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good morning. Yeah, yeah, maybe you can increase the sound. Right. So when I change this direction, it will. So it is. Yeah. Good morning, and also we are in the premises of
Andhra Mahila Sabha. It's apt for me to say Andarki Namaskaram. And respected Chakrapani sir, many of us consider that it is a privilege for us to work with him for many reasons. But one reason, as sir said, we got connected through an activity that sir has initiated, that is health is wealth. So, and actually, it's not strange that, I think 3 years or 4 years ago, this sir called me to make me a presentation on milk and milk products. I think that's how I got an opportunity to work closely with him and what he is spearheading as far as health and education is concerned, which is, a great activity. And also, I take this opportunity to thank Madam. She is constantly in touch and also sending students to NIN, and in fact, she visited us a couple of times. So that's really, shows the management as well as the faculty taking a lot of interest to groom you. And it is now up to you. I think we have a very active chairman, and then of course we have a secretary who is proactive and putting all their efforts, and we have such a wonderful faculty. All that what you need to is take these opportunities and the efforts they have put in for your benefits. I think that's my first request. Coming to today's presentation, as we are in the month of September. Usually, earlier we used to celebrate first week of September as a Nutrition Week. But since 2018 onwards, this government started this Poshan Abhiyan. They decided to celebrate the entire month as a nutrition month. So that is the occasion for us to discuss few aspects of nutrition. Today, what I'm going to talk to you in the next 30-40 minutes, as sir also said, in between any time, if you want any clarification, you can stop me. I have no problem. If you think you cannot remember your question till the end of the presentation, that's perfectly fine. So in the next 30-40 minutes, what the presentation is, basically because it's a nutrition month, our idea is to create the awareness. Yeah, let me, before I go to the next slide, as sir said, we are one of the 29 institutes of the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research. We have 28 or 29 institutes. Each institute has a specific or defined mandate. Like we have National Institute of Virology, its contribution during the COVID, and that's how we got the vaccine because of the involvement of that. Likewise, we have an institute called National Institute of Malaria. We have an institute called National Institute of Tuberculosis Research. We have a National Institute of Epidemiology. We have National Institute of Tribal Health, so on and so forth. So this is one of the, rather it's the biggest institute of all the institutes of ICMR. And it is 106 years old. Yesterday we celebrated our 106th birthday. So now, will you operate for me the slide? Yeah. Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? As I said, earlier we used to celebrate first week as a nutrition week, but since 2018 onwards, we are celebrating the entire month as a nutrition month. Okay? So this is mainly to create public awareness about nutrition. And then you will realize at the end of my presentation, as well as sir has in fact briefed the whole presentation, that what is the importance of nutrition in our health as well as longevity. Okay. So the entire exercise that we do in this month is to create awareness among the common people, including the students, about the importance of nutrition. So optimal nutrition is the cornerstone of person's entire well-being. When we say here entire well-being, not just the absence of disease. So everything, including your social well-being. As I already mentioned, now the Poshan Abhiyan main mandate is to combat undernutrition among children of below 5 years or below 6 years old, pregnant women and lactating women. They are the target population because they are the most vulnerable groups as far as the malnutrition is concerned. Of course, all other groups are equally important, including elderly. Now we are focusing on elderly. Actually, a good part of my research dwells on geriatric nutrition. Probably now I will have another lecture, but you may not be interested because you do not come under that category. So I will have it for some other elderly group. Next, please. Just keep. Yeah. Every year or every nutrition month, we have a theme. Okay. This year theme is, I don't know whether you can read it or not. Suposhit Bharat, Sakshar Bharat, and what is the next one? Can you read that? Yeah? Sakshar Bharat. Yeah. Yeah. It's nothing but Sakshat Bharat. Okay. This is about nutrition rich India, if you want to translate, and educated India, and Sakshat Bharat means empowered India. So nutrition is well connected to these two components, but we will not get into those other two today because today's focus is on nutrition. The next one, please. The mainly to have a healthier society. Well, coming to the nutrition and health, there are a couple of few things that I just want to touch before I go into the main aspect. That is, ever since I think since 2013, when this food security bill came into act, there were a lot of debate about, is it food security that is enough for us, or we need more than that. Therefore, I wanted to educate this group what is food security and what is nutrition security. Many of us get confused with these words whenever we hear in debates and in TV debates or whatever it is. Food security is simply means that all people at all times should have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Though in the food security they have used the word nutritious food, but the way that it has been implemented, nutrition was not really taken care. Therefore, there was a lot of discussion that food security, if you have to literally translate into Telugu, this may not be applicable for us. Kadupu nindite chalu annadi food security means. Okay, that was the purpose of food security. But then there are a lot of discussion. No, that's not enough. We have to take care of nutrition security. Next, please. Next one, please. Yeah, nutrition security encompasses more than what food security entitles. So it is basically physical, economic, and social access to an age and physiological status appropriate balanced diet. Today I am going to focus on the balanced diet, how it meets your nutrient requirement. Balanced diet, along with safe drinking water, environmental hygiene, and of course primary health care, so and so forth. Next one, please. Yeah, if you, I can also operate from there. Is it that okay? Can I, my slides? Okay. Yeah, sure. Since I mentioned about food safety, just this is only one slide, but later on we will get on to the complete aspects of balanced diet. Safety is also important for nutrition security because we many a times ignore this component. Food safety, quality, and nutritional value of the food are the major determinants of our health and well-being. So the reason is that food is the vector for multiple sources of contamination. It could be, it is a vector for biological contaminants. It could be microbiomes. It could be, viruses, or it could be any other thing. It could be vector for chemical hazards. It could be, actually, it can even get physically damaged also at various points of time. That's why it can lead to a nutritional problem. So, as I said, it can be contaminated at any point during production, even at harvest, and subsequently the preparation and distribution also. Therefore, it is important to make sure that food we eat is not contaminated with potentially harmful bacteria, either before cooking or after cooking. And also, there are no other bugs in that, as well as there are no chemical contaminants. That's a food safety. Though one can take a class about one hour on food safety, but today that's not our important. Next, please. As I said, the health and nutrition security comes from the awareness, access, and affordability related to balanced diet, hygiene, and of course, healthcare facilities. Next one, please. I don't want to take much time because all of us know the definition of health, but many a times we tend to ignore that health means just we don't have any disease. It's not the case. It encompasses everything like physical, mental, and social well-being. I think the very purpose of health is wealth group is entire definition of this WHO, not just the absence of disease. The social well-being is very, very important. Next one, please. So basic requirements of health are like this: nutrition, exercise, and good habits. Again, we will not go into the second and third aspect today. We'll take care of that sometime later. Today we'll focus on the nutrition. Next, please. Yeah, when we say balanced diet, first we should be knowing that what are all that we need in our diet. Okay? If you see the required components in the food, most of us basically know that we need to have some carbohydrates, some proteins, and some amount of fats or oils. Okay, then how much is the question? Here, many of us get confused with a lot of the social media posts and all that. Everyone comes up with every kind of recommendation. So that is okay, but as long as we take an informed decision, we can still go through all of this. But we should have a basic idea that what is the requirement. So now let us assume that, like you, as far as your age and your target is concerned, based on your work style and your occupation, you need about 2000 calories of energy in a day. So how should you get these 2000 calories? Let's say your carbohydrates should provide about 45 to 60% of the 2000 calories. Okay. Next, your protein should contribute to as much as up to 15% of the calories. Now you can go back to your textbook. 1 gram of carbohydrate, how many calories you get? 1 gram of protein, how much you will get? I am not going to give that calculation here. And then fat should contribute to about 25 to 35% of the calories. The reason I have given a range here is that no two individuals will have exactly similar requirements. There will be slight difference between the individuals. Again, that depends on various factors, the age and also your occupation, etc., your physical activity. The most important part, this at least we all know that, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. But what we tend to ignore, or many of us do not even know, is that there is another group called micronutrients. Micronutrients are basically vitamins and minerals, and they do not contribute to the calories. This is one important thing. Okay, they are very, very essential, but they don't contribute to calories. But note this point: they have to be obtained from the diet. This body cannot produce these micronutrients, most of the micronutrients. Maybe there are few which can be produced later as a part of the metabolism. Therefore, they are very essential for the health as well as your physiological activities. Next, please. So, as I said, this requirement, sir, can you actually, is it possible for you to push that bar down? Yeah, I want to see some, or you can actually minimize. Yeah, can you bring it further? Okay. Oh, that's okay. So these, as I said, micronutrients by definition required in small quantities, and they play an essential role in various physiological and biological processes. I'm sure those students of life sciences must have read, what is a cofactor, where vitamin is involved as a cofactor, like vitamin B1 thiamine is a factor for some enzyme, riboflavin is a cofactor for some enzyme if you have read already metabolism, and vitamin A in visual cycle, vitamin C in so and so aspects, etc. So those are the physiological and biological processes. And very importantly, micronutrient deficiencies are mostly propagated through dietary inadequacies. Whenever we say there's a deficiency, obviously it is, we have not met our requirement. That means we have not taken the diets which are rich in these micronutrients. There is no other way but for some genetic aspects or some hereditary related or some basic metabolic disorders. Those are the exceptional cases. But in a common population, when you say micronutrient deficiency, means we are not meeting that through our diet. That's the message. So deficiency of micronutrients cause several health consequences in humans. However, micronutrient deficiencies in apparently healthy adults are seldom recognized. The reason is that we do not know how much we take. We do not even recognize in the food whether they are there or not. That's the actually purpose of this Nutrition Month activities, to tell that how do you meet all these micronutrient requirements through which of the foods that you take, how to have a balanced diet. That's the whole thing. At least now, because of various reasons, for the last 50, 60 years, in the country, we have heard the problem of vitamin A deficiency because it leads to night blindness. And in the recent past, we have been hearing about B12 deficiency and vitamin D deficiency. But for these three, many of us do not know what happens to the status of other micronutrients, whether we are meeting, we are not meeting, how do we meet that, what they are contributing, what problems can come. These are the things that we need to get educated all this. Next, please. Yeah, here I want to give some basic concept to the student. Like nutritional condition is divided into three categories. Okay, one is undernutrition, other one is overnutrition. Third, the important thing is optimal nutrition. The first two, most of the time, clubbed as a malnutrition. Many a times we get confused that malnutrition is undernutrition, but overnutrition is also malnutrition. And now we are equally facing the overnutrition problem along with the undernutrition problem. So this happened in the last 20 years. About 30 years ago, we never talked about the obesity. We never really talked about overnutrition so much so as a problem that today we are talking. So that is the other side of the developmental aspect, whether you want to relate it to or not, but that is the reality. So these are the three conditions, but today we will focus on optimal nutrition. That's what I am going to say, balanced nutrition. So, but how do we assess the nutritional status of an individual? Even those of you who are not life science students, I made it as simple as possible. You can still follow it. That's not a problem. So there are four important components for us to know our nutritional status. The first one is dietary intake studies. Generally, that's what NIN does. They go to some house or some community and they ask them how much you ate yesterday or how much you ate last week. By showing that, they take the quantity and then they can tell you whether you are taking appropriate or optimal nutrition or not. That is just asking you that what all the things you took and how much you took, we can tell you. But on your own, you may not be able to do that. The other thing is biochemical studies, where we identify the subclinical nutrition deficiency. When I say subclinical nutritional deficiency, there is no clinical condition. Many a times, deficiency can lead to clinical condition. Let's say vitamin A deficiency leads to night blindness. That means if a child has a keratomalacia or night blindness, you can relate it to vitamin A deficiency. But when there is no clinical condition, for many of the vitamins, you don't have a clinical situation. So how do? We have to estimate that in our blood. You can also estimate in tissue, but you cannot take the tissues. So the easiest thing is to take is the blood and estimate in the blood. So that reflects. So that is what we call as a biochemical estimation or subclinical estimation. Why we say subclinical? Beyond a point which should not be there, but still it is not reflecting in the clinical situation, we call it as a subclinical situation. Then clinical symptom. As I said, there are some nutrients which by clinical status you can make out. As I said, vitamin A and vitamin D, rickets. Of course, we do not have the problem as much as it used to be. Or protein energy malnutrition, even that is not there these days. That results in a clinical condition. The last one, simplest thing is anthropometric indices. Anthropometric indices means measuring your height, weight, or along with your age. This is one thing I want to suggest to the faculty and students. You can do these things by yourselves. What it tells you when you measure your height, weight, it will give you whether you have the ideal body weight or not. So maintain ideal body weight is one of the important components of the health. So what is the ideal body weight? I think that table is marked here. Can you push this forward? Yeah. Okay, this is important for you. For children, it is different. Since you are all, I think above 17 or 18, I have not showing that I consider you are adults. So this is for the adults. What is the ideal body weight? It should be based on a BMI. That is nothing but body mass index. So your body mass index should be between 18.5 to 23. So that is ideal body mass index. And if it is more than that, it comes under overweight and obese category. If it is less than that, it is a malnutrition or chronic energy deficiency or nutrition deficiency. So how do you know that your BMI is between 18.5 or 23? Many of you must be knowing, but for the benefit of those who have no idea how to measure your BMI, there's an equation. Can you see that? I think it is done. Yeah. Yeah. Slides got mixed up. Anyway, so the BMI can be estimated by your weight in kgs. If you want to write down, you write down. Let's say you are 60 kg weight, 60 divided by your height in meters. I put here, let's say your height is 160 centimeters. That means 1.6 meters. Height in meters square. That means 1.6 into 1.6. I have given the equation, but it is not appearing here. Sir, can you put a stroke there? Maybe it will come. Oh, no, go back. So BMI is basically your body weight in kgs by your height in meters square. So that should give the answer between, and the answer is between 18.5 to 23. That means you are doing okay. But many times when we go to the field and the villages here and there who are not as much as educated like you, they do not know how to convert this height into meters and then do the square and all that. So we do a simple, very what do you call, vague kind of equation, but still it works. What we can do, ideal body weight is equal to your height minus 100. Okay, let's say your height is 160. Then you subtract that with 100. What do you get? 60. So your ideal weight should be 60. If you are not able to calculate BMI, you can use this. Still, it is pretty much close to the equation that what I showed here. Okay, let us say you are 160 centimeters minus your weight is 60. So, sorry, 100 minus 100 will be 60. That is, you should be 60 kg weight. That's the way that one can calculate. Earlier, it used to be about, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, we were following the international standards of BMI up to 25. But now, based on all the data that we collected throughout the country and realized that we have a different body composition, even further, let's say, the same body weight and height, that for the same BMI of Indian, if you take with an European and other Westerners, our body has got more fat for various reasons. That way, I'll not get into that. Therefore, we decided that we should not have the same BMI along with the Europeans or Caucasians. We should have our own BMI. Therefore, we reduced it to 23 instead of 25. So anything above 23 BMI is overweight, and anything above 25 is pre-obese, and above 30 is obviously obese. Okay. So you, one suggestion here is that anytime, like, in the year, in the beginning of the year, in every class, you can have on a scale there. You can even draw a scale on the wall, and measure your height if you don't have the tape. And then you can have a bathroom scale and take your height and calculate your BMI and make a project and submit to your principal. That is actually a project for you. You will be telling all your friends who is falling in the range, who is falling below, who is falling above. That's what I do when I go to the schools. Actually, we have even distributed some bathroom scales for them, and they can draw their scale on the wall, and they can do it. But for the school kids, it's below, for them, these indicators are different. So that you don't have to worry about. Next, please. So, as I said, now coming to the nutrition part, how do we know that what is our requirement? This itself is a big science in the nutrition research. Estimating the nutrient requirements of individuals is a whole lot of big science here, because one has to do a lot of work here. It varies because the requirement varies on physiological status. That means whether you are in the growth period, or an individual is a pregnant or lactating mother or an elderly person, because it varies according to the physiology of the person. Therefore, there are variety of approaches, because I just wanted to highlight this to you, how to get this requirement. It's just not happens in a click of button or in a day or two. Sometimes we have to spend almost 5 to 10 years to do this. Like one has to conduct nutrient balance studies or obligatory losses of nutrients. That means whenever you take some nutrients, if they are not required, they are excreted. But beyond that, there are also losses through your sweat, your urine, by many ways, particularly for adolescent girls through blood, because when you menstruate, you lose a lot of nutrients. These are the things that are taken into account for calculating the nutrient requirement. So that's a big science there. Okay. So any of you are interested in doing nutrition research, you have a great scope to do this for Indians. Okay. We still do not have robust data for Indians in these aspects. We depend on some studies here and there, and we make our own assumptions. But there is a scope for you guys to set up your own area of research in this area. Okay. And one more thing is that what we do these days, ethically, it may not be allowed. Those days, it used to be done like that. So depletion-repletion studies. That means if I want to know how much of folic acid is required for me, if I go to a lab, if somebody wants to test on me, they will ask me to take their food, which is devoid of folic acid for a week. You should see that, no food items should have folic acid, or they will design for you. Let us say if I ask you to come to my lab, I want to estimate your folic acid requirement. What I will tell you, don't take these foods which have folic acid for 1 week. That means I have depleted all of your folic acid for 1 week. Then next 1 week to 2 weeks, what I will do, I keep on giving different levels of folic acid to you. I will measure some markers which reflect the folic acid status, either homocysteine or other metabolic pathways. Then I come to a point, okay, this is the amount of folic acid you require for your physiological activity. It's a big science that is to be done in those days, but these days, ethical people will not allow you because I have to deplete your folic acid. So otherwise, we have to do different approaches. So why I am telling this, these are all exciting things in the research. We think that, nutrition is just something that somebody says, take, 5 grams of this one, 10 grams of that one. It is not that simple. So, but apart from these methods, it is possible to define requirement. There's a way to do that. Then we can also, based on that, we can decide who are meeting the requirements, who are not meeting the requirements. That's what we do at NIM. So in any case, whether you are meeting or not, we should have a reference value. As I said, by these studies, I will say that for you, 500 micrograms of folic acid is required. That means that is the reference value. If you are below that, you are deficient. If it is above, you are okay, or much more than that, you are not supposed to have more than like that. So that means there should be a reference value. That we call it as a dietary reference intakes. This can also be achieved by different ways for community level. Next one, please. Yeah, this is actually what I wanted to sell. To do that, what I said, one has to take the whole homeostasis of the nutrients, how they function, how much you are taking, how much it has been stored in the tissue, how much it has been excreted, how much actually is available. It has been bioavailable because all of it you take may not be available, and how much it is, as I said, is excreted. The whole homeostasis, one has to understand the physiology. Of all the life sciences subjects, physiology is the most complicated subject. Okay, we tend to avoid that. You go to any medical college, because physiology is not a practicing discipline, they just get away with passing through that. But that is the most important thing for us to set many things right. Anyway, today we will not get into that. If you are interested, I'll take 1 hour class sometime later, but next year. You can also skip this. Okay, just to know, now in 2020, we have actually come up with a document that, the nutrient requirements for Indians. So how do we do that? We take this kind of distribution. I don't know how much of this you can follow it. What we do, we take, let's say, I'll give a simple thing. Now here in this class, there are 50 of you. We will take your nutrient intake. We will calculate, as I said, by 24-hour recall or 1 week recall, whatever it is. I know that each one of you taking how much protein, how much carbohydrates, how much this and that, I can calculate. Then I'll plot the graph like that. You see that? It's a bell-shaped graph. What does it mean? Not everyone takes the same amount of the food, first thing, right? So we should be knowing that. That means we should know the distribution of the intake in the community. First of all, I'm talking about the community. Then we take that middle one. What do we call that as? If any one of you know a bit of statistics or basic distribution point, that's a median or average. So we take that point where I have put a red arrow here. So that means that is the 50% of the people adjust towards this side, towards that side. So that is the ideal point. That means the average intake should be like that. When I say that, all 50 of you should be perfectly healthy people. You should not have any problem. Then only I can say that your requirement is right requirement. Otherwise, it cannot be used. That way, one can actually take this information and calculate the average intake of any community, for that matter, for entire India also, if it is a representative sample. Now later I take one of you individually for some time later. Then I calculate your intake. If your intake is this side, obviously your intake is less than the average population. Right? You are not saying yes or no. Okay. But for an individual, it may be okay. Here we are only, our reference is average intake for the population. So therefore, there are two terms for the average. Generally, you want to deal with a country of 1.4 billion, you won't start at an individual level. You want to first address the whole population, then come to the individual. Now we have that level of population level idea. Later is the individual issue that we can one can say personalized nutrition, etc., etc. That's the second level. Next one, please. This is the book that we have released. Now, this is actually a Bible for us, not only for us, for the entire country, whether it's a Niti Aayog or Ministry of Health, whatever it is. Now, if you go to this book, you will have all sorts of values. That's why I gave some 5 minutes before to this, that you will understand how we calculate this one. Next one, please. Yeah, each page you will have some values like this. Now you will go crazy that what are these values? What should I do with it? Okay. Okay. So you see that if you want to ignore up to 18 years old thing, you can ignore it. Go to straight away for men and women of different categories, sedentary, moderate, heavy. Again, here we decide requirement based on their activity. Because a person who is working in the field requires a different amount of protein, different amounts of nutrients than who are sitting here in an AC room, not even getting up for 5-10 minutes. So you need a different amount. Okay? Obviously, that's why it is in. Now I'll take only one example. Protein. You see the protein, 54 grams per day. And for women, it is 46 grams per day. So we have derived this based on all the concepts that I explained, including the distribution kind of thing that what we have got the data. If you want to have more information, when you come to our lab, madam is sending some students, others can also come, but later you can read, you will get. So now that is the requirement for protein. Like that for every nutrient you have it here. Time will not permit me to explain all of it. Now go to the next one. Many other nutrients. Next one. Now here comes the question. When I say you take 50 grams of protein, or you take 5 grams of fiber, 7 grams of this one, or 1.1 mg of B1, or 2.3 mg, how does the common population know that? How do they take it? Now you have to convert this into in a understandable manner for the common people. At least you guys can go through that book and you can calculate and do some work. But we have to do this for the common people. Now this is what NIN based on that book, they have come up with this kind of plate. It should be a kind of for 2000 calories taking into account, your plate should look like this. Here you may be surprised that 50% of the plate is fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, we don't take that much. Well, we are recommending, but the reality is not close to that. So whereas you see what are all the things, maybe I'll show the table, the same thing I have put it in the table. Next one, please. Yeah, this table is important for all of you for today's lecture. So for 2000 calories requirement individual, one should take cereals about 250 grams in a day. That at least you can make out. And we can even tell common people. They know that how much 250 means. You can show a cup or a ginne gani adana chupettu inta rice ani cheppochu mana vallaki. So that's why we have come up to this way. Instead of showing that you take 50 grams of protein, you take 1.1 gram of this one, 2.3 of this one. That doesn't work for them. So one has to take 250 grams of cereal. And pulses, how much? 85. What for we take pulses? Nobody is answering. Cereals, what is the most important thing in the cereal? What do we have? What is the major nutrient in the cereals? Protein is not the major thing, carbohydrates. Rice, cereals is nothing but rice, wheat, right? Carbohydrate. You have some amount of protein. I'll show you that also. So cereals are predominantly carbohydrate rich, whereas pulses are good for proteins. So that's why we are saying that to meet your carbohydrates, you should take about 250 grams of cereals and 85 grams of pulses. I thought you will ask me a question. If you know that pulses are good for protein, I expect the next question, sir. You said only 54 grams of protein, but you are telling us to take 84 grams of pulses. Nobody, none of you asked that question. You can ask, but I am asking on behalf of you. Okay? Because all of the pulse also will not have 100% protein. Right? That is number one. It will have some 20 grams in 100 grams of it. As you also said, in the cereals also we have some amount of protein. So all of it is taken into consideration accordingly we have mentioned that. So now you have to have 400 grams of vegetables. Here I say all sorts of vegetables, not one single vegetable. Then you have to have fruits, nuts, and your oil should be about 30 grams. Many of us actually of late started this business of avoiding oil. And most importantly, we started thinking which oil is zero cholesterol. Can any one of you tell me the oil which is zero cholesterol? I want them to answer. Is it possible to have zero cholesterol oil? That's all. No, now after this TV shows have stopped that, but otherwise, Earlier they were telling zero cholesterol, zero cholesterol. How is it possible? These are all plant-based oils. Huh? Okay. And in the plants, do we have cholesterol? No. Yes or no? Yes? Have you studied cholesterol biosynthesis? Actually, when you say vegetable oils, zero cholesterol, doesn't make any sense. This is the problem. See, we are all educated. Now, this is undergraduation. Later, we will become postgraduate. I am a doctorate. Unless I went to Nutrition Institute, probably I would have also, if somebody had asked, can you have a zero cholesterol oil? I would have said yes. This is exactly the purpose of Nutrition Month, where you go all over. Now, my another question to you is that not this 1 hour. You educate yourself, you educate your family, you educate your neighborhood. So people should know that what all that comes in the TV, most of it is junk. Okay? So don't believe that zero cholesterol oil. There cannot be cholesterol in the plants. Cholesterol is only in the animal source. But there is a way that cholesterol gets synthesized from the precursors that we get from the plants. What is the precursor for the cholesterol in the plants? Okay, ergosterol or many other sterols are there. From that, we will synthesize the cholesterol. So that's what is the thing that we should be doing, not focusing only on the marks and our syllabus and all that. This is very important. Anyway, for a minute, we'll not worry about that. So that's how these values are given. Next, you see, those who wants to replace their protein with animal source or other sources, the cereals can be substituted with eggs, fish, or meat. That's your cultural practice, and science does not come into that your cultural practice. You have to decide. Like if you want to, you know that you want to have 54 grams of protein to meet that. This is the vegetarian table. But if you want to substitute with your fish or egg, you can decide how much you have to take. So that's the information. Next one, please. But unfortunately, though I showed there, just can you go back to the previous one? We have shown that milk and milk products should be about 300 ml. The survey that, okay. Good, sir. Good, sir. Okay, great. Yeah, actually, it's not a typical scientific or talk. It's a more of, there is no rocket science here. Most of you or most of us may be knowing some of these things, but not that everyone knows everything. As I said, even if I was not into the Nutrition Institute, I would have not known many of these things, what I'm talking to you today. So, one point what I was telling, our recommendation is that 300 ml of milk and milk products. Upon our survey in the entire country, the average intake of milk and milk products is not more than 120 ml. So that's a status that we are in, but how can we improve? That's a practical problem, whether, but we are saying that we have white revolution, where all that it is going, how many can afford, those are all other issues. So therefore, you should see that how can we meet this requirement. Next, please. Next one. Yeah, now, sir, can you go back to one previous slide? Before I have my tea, you can read that, no? When we say that my plate, if you follow that my plate, you can read, if you can read, it will take care of all your health-related issues. And it will also prevent many of the preventable diseases, if you follow that balanced diet or recommended diet. Next one, please. Leave it there for a second if they want to read. Yeah. I don't think so, sir. No. No, actually, I can leave that presentation here anytime you go through any of these slides. Yeah. Next one. Yeah, now this is one issue that India is facing, though through our Green Revolution and Food Security Act, by and large, we are a food secure nation. Maybe here and there, some pockets here and there, there is a problem with international agencies for their own agenda, which is not a concern for you right now. For us, it's a major concern that they try to project that India is, country of this one, that one. There is every other problem that is not there in the entire world. Only it is here. They will project it for their own purposes and their own agenda. Right now, that is not the concern. But day to day, we face that problem. They say that in the hunger index, India is 106, which is actually not true. We have rebutted that. We have given that the method that I have used to calculate is wrong. We have provided. Now we are doing, sir, that 100 crore project is also takes care of giving the data for calculating hunger index. So all those things, people do project. But what I'm saying, by and large, we are a food secure country. Actually, our godowns are full of the grains. Okay. Only thing is how we distribute, properly we distribute. Those are all the different issues. That's where sir and the administrators will take care of that problem. We will only provide the information. So, but what is the problem that we are facing now is that micronutrient deficiency. As I said, micronutrient deficiencies is difficult for you to know whether you are meeting or not. Unless you follow that my plate or the table that I showed, or 400 grams of fruits and vegetables, 100 grams of other things, you will be meeting. But obviously, I'm not blaming you. Even I don't meet 400 grams of fruits and vegetables in a day, because culturally we are grown up like that. Okay. At least I will try to have every day 1 or 2 fruits, but I don't think so it will add up to 400 grams. So if not 400, try to see that we reach to 200, 250 or 300. It will not happen in a day. So that's why micronutrient deficiency is a major problem. Not only India, many of the low and middle income countries have this problem. And despite the substantial economical growth, this is also one issue here, that because of our awareness, because we do not know the importance of micronutrients, we do not know how to meet them, what is their importance in our health and physiology. Next one, please. I just want to show you that. Actually, this is a much better picture, because this is a study. The name of the study is Comprehensive National Nutrition Survey. This is done under the guidance of Ministry of Health and Family Welfare through UNICEF and many other agencies, Population Council, etc., etc. To some extent, we are also part of that. And I did a lot of analysis for that survey. You see that now this is a study focusing only 1 to 19-year-old age group. They wanted to estimate the status of for the children up to 19 years. Still, there is a vitamin A deficiency up to 14 to 19%. But I want to make a point here for sir also. Sir, earlier we used to have vitamin A deficiency so much so, up to 50, 60% also. Now it has come down below 20%, which is a good sign. But international agencies do not want to accept this, because they want to sell their vitamin A to Indian population. Yeah, that's a different issue. But why I am highlighting this point here is that in 70s, it is actually NIN which did this issue of the night blindness due to vitamin A deficiency. They came up with some recommendation that now we have to give vitamin A supplementation. It went through a lot of evolution. Finally, that is merged with our immunization program. When you give you take your child for immunization along with your vaccines, they also give massive vitamin A dose of 2 lakh units of vitamin A, so as to prevent this vitamin A blindness. Because of that, and because of many other developmental issues and food security and all that, that problem has come down to less than 20%, which is not, by and large, is not anything above 20% is a public health problem. So now it is not a public health problem. Through this study we published, but many agencies don't want to accept. No, we can't accept that. No, you still have to give vitamin A. That is fortification thing is going on. Now a lot of discussion is going on. Golden rice still is not available to everyone, though iron fortified rice is coming into the picture. So, but golden rice is still will take some time. It is available here and there, but not as a government system. So you see B12 deficiency up to 35%. You have vitamin deficiency, folate deficiency, zinc deficiency, and iron deficiency. For this group, I want to focus that though we don't have as much as anemia that used to be like 60%, 70%, it has come down, but the specific groups like adolescent girls, pregnant women, lactating mothers are still, they need to take care of their iron requirements. because of the physiological needs. Okay. Yeah. If you see that, yeah. Now, most of these micronutrients, as I said, they are very, very essential for our bodily function. Therefore, if we have deficiencies, you will get many, many problems. If you see, this is actually more than micronutrient deficiencies. As I said, I was happy that when I see that vitamin A deficiency has come down below 20%, but we are all baffled to see that. Next one, please. Still, we have 35% stunted children, we have 17% wasted children, and about 33% underweight. Stunting means you do not have the required height for your given age. Okay, that means you are short for your age. Wasting means you do not have required weight for the given height. So there are charts for what age, how much height should be there, for what height, how much weight should be there. Accordingly, we will calculate. And underweight means you do not have the required weight for the age. So these are definitions. Sometimes you all get confused. Even if you practice for one day, you will not be able to repeat this again. I am telling you. When I joined NN, I have to take this 3-4 times. What is stunting is easy because you are short for your age. Wasting is your weight is not up to your height. Undernutrition is your weight is not up to your age. Okay, these are the words that we use in your nutritional aspects, whether country is doing or not, fair or not. Then another problem is these are for different age groups. Anyway, the next one, please. This is the most worrisome for us. 1 in 10 children are pre-diabetic. Actually, we don't expect the diabetes in children at all. 1 in 10 is pre-diabetic, and 1 in 100 are diabetic, and these are below 19 years. And this is most important things. Almost 7% of kids also have renal problems. That is chronic kidney disease. CKD means chronic kidney disease. Any parameter related to renal failure clubbed under that. So, can anyone imagine BP means only for old people? Now there is hypertension is nothing but high blood pressure. There are 5% of the kids who have hypertension. And of course, high cholesterol. So what I am saying, the micronutrient requirement is very, very essential to counter all these problems that I showed. That's the reason I am taking 2 minutes of your time to highlight this one. Next, please. Okay, that's a children data. What is it with adults? You believe it or not, this is my own study. Couple of PhD students and myself, we did it in around Hyderabad. That is published in 2019. On 300 apparently healthy people, they have no problem. They have no medical reports of any health problems. But if you still see that they are deficient for B2, about how much? 52% of them are B2 deficient. They do not know that. And 46 of them are B6 deficient. They do not know that. And then anyway, we are talking about B12 deficiency. To some extent, we can expect that. And vitamin D deficiency about 30%. So what I am saying, even the well-to-do, apparently healthy people are not aware that their micronutrients are good or bad. So unless you take some call or see that you are meeting the balanced diet, all that, you would not be able to understand. Or you have to go for a test. Usually we go for a test when there's a clinical problem. So that, okay, next please. And again in adults, you see 40% of them are overweight and 20% are obese. And this is what I was saying, why we have reduced BMI. 70% of them have abdominal obesity. That is fat. And 20% are anemic, etc., etc. Next, please. Why again I am going around this micronutrient thing is many of the micronutrients are linked to variety of diseases that I mentioned here, like age-related macular degeneration, Alzheimer's disease, obesity, cardiovascular diseases, osteoporosis. You name any vitamin, it is linked to something or the other if it is deficient. Next, please. This is a very recent study published in 2023 by myself and my colleague in IT employees in Hyderabad, 3 or 4 software companies. Later, they refused us to come inside. Okay, we managed to get inside. Can you read this here? Go to your BMI. 16%, 17% of them are obese. How much are overweight? 44%. Anyway, forget about it. How many of them are normal? 36% in IT sector. So this is the situation we are in. We are not realizing that our physical activity, our diet, all the things. At the most, if a company gives a card that you have all the medical tests, but what do you do at the end of it? You get all the tests that you have a BP of 200, or you have this one, that one. It's better we start now. I think it is the right time that you are taking care of this kind of issues, and your faculty and management are arranging this kind of lectures. The other day, sir has organized generic medicine. We all should be aware of this, because we have to have some social responsibility and social consciousness, not only for ourselves, for even to educate our neighborhood and take care of our family. Next, please. Yeah, as I said, this is a recent study, and this is like publicized in every paper in Hyderabad and entire India. That my director got wild. What did you guys do this? Where everybody is coming to NI and asking that is this the problem in IT people? I said we just wanted to know what is their status. We publish it, and all papers have covered this aspect in the entire nation. Next, please. Yeah, that's a good thing, sir. I don't want to name the companies, but we took a company which is big one. I think more than 5,000 employees. Another one was a small one. So they have cafeteria. You have everything there. But then they decided to display all the healthy aspects. They are sending the videos about what is the balanced diet, what is the importance of nutrient, micronutrient deficiency, what is the problem with processed foods, what is the problem with your physical, how to manage your physical activity. They change their work environment. It's good that they change, but we only work with 2 or 3 companies. Now this is a problem with the entire nation. So we want to expand it to the national level and see how it works out. They have changed their work environment. Even their cafeteria menu, they're willing to change, and they changed actually during that time. And even I think they invited some these Zumba people and all that. So to some physical activity, etc., etc. They have incorporated some aspects. Next. Okay, quickly I'll go through these slides. I don't want to waste your time. You must be asking how do I get my protein? Usually I said 1 gram of protein per kg body weight. You see, the people will ask it, right? When I ask what is cereal is good for, you all said for protein. But in your cereal, how much protein you have? For 100 grams of cereal, you have only 7 grams of protein. Right? Next. Yeah. These are the protein-rich sources. Again, here also, not that every 100 gram of that source will have 100 grams of the protein. No. They are up to 20%. Next one, please. And these are good for vitamin A. Next. Yeah. One important thing, vitamin D, before this 2020 recommendation, nutrient requirements, we have previous publication 2010 nutrient requirement. In that book, NI recommendation, vitamin D can be met only through sunlight exposure. You don't need anything. That was actually the science. But now realizing the problem, this time we have changed that. Actually, the requirement we have increased. There was a recommendation that minimum of 20 minutes exposure in mid-noon between 11 to 3. Minimum of 20 minutes exposure with not fully covered clothes, at least good part of the body exposed to sunlight. That is the first thing to get your vitamin D. In addition to these foods which are rich, for those vegetarians, you have to decide mushrooms and etc. etc. But otherwise, egg is the best source not only for vitamin D, for many things. So that's a message I wanted to give. Okay, next please. Yeah, you can quickly go through this. No, you can skip. Yeah, next. Just previous one. Just one slide. This is for you, for adolescent girls. These are the foods which are rich in iron. You are supposed to meet your iron requirement through these foods. Okay. Next. This one thing we always get confused. As I said, oils. People say that zero cholesterol, this one, that one, and everyone wants olive oil. Whether if you are able to afford the olive oil cost, it's okay, but we don't recommend that, because as long as you rotate any of these oils, the mainly 3 or 4 oils. Of all the oils, groundnut oil is the best one. Now, in our culture, what we practice, followed by sunflower, maybe rice bran, to some extent palm oil. Though there are a lot of videos in the social media saying that palm oil is poison, this one, that one. Government has a big program for cultivating palm trees. Therefore, we have to be educated ourselves. If somebody puts a video in a social media saying that palm oil, if you take next day, you will die, we should not believe that. Only thing is, do you want to take palm oil every day for 365 days? without any other oil, you should be knowing that. So what is our requirement and recommendation is, out of the 4 or 5 oils that we use, groundnut, sunflower, rice bran, palm oil, any of 3 or 4, you rotate for every week one oil or every 2 weeks one oil. These 4, but you should never consume one single oil. For one reason, no single oil will have all the fatty acids that we require. Like that I said, all the pictures I showed, no single food will you give all the nutrients that I showed in the 2 tables, starting from protein, carbohydrates, fats, and 10 vitamins and 10 minerals. If you take rice, 90% of it, what you will get? Carbohydrates. And 3 times a day, what do you get? Maybe a little bit of fiber and some protein. But where do you get all the micronutrients? Likewise, the simple logic, if you take only one oil throughout, maybe like if you take sunflower oil, which is predominantly N6, whereas groundnut oil has got a slightly better balance, N6, N3, bit of MUFA, that is monounsaturated fatty acids, which is good for our health. Well, in our southern part, it is not a practice, but if you are okay, you can take mustard oil. Okay, that's not a problem. So likewise, but olive oil, though it is good in N3, but one need not put efforts of, instead of buying 100 kg to 200 rupees per kg, you don't have to spend 1000 rupees for olive oil, which is not going to give that much of advantage for the amount that you spend. You are so rich, and if you want to buy, that's a different issue. Okay. And there is also one thing for these. I put this slide particularly for you guys. Those of you who have the practice of cooking, you should know that which oil is good for which purpose. There are different cooking things. One you can use it for dressing material. One you can use it frying. Not every oil can be used for frying. Not every oil can be used for dressing. Not every oil can be used for seasoning. See the last table. What is that? Smoke point. That will decide for what purpose you have to use which oil. That's a science actually. Not that somebody put some video in the social media. That we should be knowing ourselves, and then we have to take our own decision. Next, please. You can take this. Yeah. I think, more or less I'm done. Last part I wanted to mention this. Food processing. By and large, it's better you avoid the processed foods, particularly very, very refined, highly processed foods. The reason I said, in the processing, a lot of things happen. They add salt, they add sugar, they add trans fatty acid. Now there is a regulation that you should not have trans fatty at all. Few years ago, it was allowed up to 2%. Now it is zero trans fat regulation in the country, but still people use. Then they will also add some additives because they have to store it in the supermarket or at home for month or 2 months. And they would also have some flavor agents, etc. Trans fatty acids actually is basically, sir, vanaspati oil that we call, they are hydrogenated oils because to keep it for longer time. So there is the bonding pattern decides this trans fatty acid. Usually we have double bond in an arrangement. There is a called cis and trans. There's the opposite side. It is trans double bond. That is called trans fatty acids in a simple term. But the trans fatty acids have a problem with competing with the normal fatty acids. That will not. They will also undergo with a regular metabolism of other fatty acids. Therefore, trans fatty acids are not good. Generally, trans fatty acids are used to keep the oils in a solid condition because the hydrogenation pattern helps them to be in a solid form, and also for long period of using it. Like that's what they use exactly because they want to keep it for that's. Otherwise, the regular oils, if you keep it for a long time, of course, the refined oils now they take processing. Otherwise, they get rancid. The trans fatty acids will not get that much because they are hydrogenated. Because these double bonds are removed. The more double bonds, there is a chance of more oxidation. So trans fatty acids have less double bonds. That means there's more of hydrogenation. The trans definition comes, where do you hydrogenate it? Which position? So in one side that is called cis position, the opposite side it is called trans position. That is a chemistry wise we use that terminology. So trans fatty acids are basically to keep them in a longer period, and it's much easier to maintain them. They are much cheaper actually. Hydrogenation will help you to use it for longer time. So that's a problem with the processed foods. Therefore, we try to minimize the processed foods, particularly ultra processing and heat refining removes lot of the micronutrients that I mentioned in the previous slides. because many of these nutrients are very, very heat sensitive and heat level. They get lost during these processes. So by and large, take it my word, 90% of the high processed foods will not have essential nutrients, but for carbohydrates and some protein and fat, of course, because that is the one which gives you the taste and flavor. Next one, please.
Have you heard about any processed food has no nutrition? Any processed food, this thing is my word. That's what
Well, they do say that we have fortified this with that one, and all that. But during processing, there's a lot of loss of these micronutrients, particularly those which are heat labile ones. Yeah. So
that is the reason why we are strongly advocating that you be sensitized on these issues so that you can help others as educated persons. మీరు ఎక్కడికి వెళ్ళినా you should start talking about them. మీ ఇళ్ళకి వెళ్ళినా చుట్టుపక్కల బంధువుల ఇళ్ళకి వెళ్ళినా ఫంక్షన్ లో కూడా any processed food is always dangerous. I mean, it's totally harmful. It has no nutritive content. మనం ఎందుకు తింటాం? మనకేదో బలం రావాలి. బలం వచ్చే బదులు ఉన్న ఇమ్యూనిటీ పోగొట్టుకోవడానికి కాదు కదా. So please be aware of it. That's why we are constantly mentioning these factors. And one of the reasons why the Westerners died because of COVID is they lost all their immunity. They depend entirely on processed food, most of them. And that's one strength we have, and I think let us preserve that strength. That's all is the point.
Thank you. Yeah, and these are some lifestyle habits that one can develop. We have to take a lot of water, but when I say a lot of water, you need not to take 5 or 10 liters. Up to 2 liters is fine. Okay, and limit the consumption of, as I already mentioned, avoid other kind of alcohol-related stuff. This one, the one that in the blue, is also important. In addition to diet, exercise, age and physiological aspects are also linked to the stress. Therefore, other factors are very much related to immune aspect. As I said, exercise is the one which improves your immunity. Many a times we think that physical activity means only walking and running. Not necessarily. One can devise their own way of doing physical activity. Even your yoga and breathing exercise also help a lot of these things. As here, I think I put that equation. In the previous slide, I was searching where did I have that equation. BMI can be calculated like this. Okay. Yeah, next one. The last part is that the food is actually geographic specific. This is wherever I go, I make this point. The foods that are grown in our area are meant for us. That's why we don't actually, olive oil is for the Mediterranean countries for various reasons. We really don't have to worry about that. So we can have it, it's fine. So food is geographic specific and food is age specific. Okay, that that's why we know for after 6 months, what do we give for the kids? అన్నప్రాస అంటాం కదా, అది ఈట్ చేసి దాంట్లో కొంచెం నెయ్యి వేసి పెడతాం. దట్ ఈస్ బెస్ట్ ఫర్ దెమ్, రైట్? So for older people, when they have some problem with the teeth and all that, they are given different kinds of preparation. So that's why it's not a common thing for everyone. So at the end, what I want to say, balanced diet is key. And how do you achieve is that diet diversification. Wherever we go, diet diversification, you take as many foods as possible. No single food will give you all the 20-30 nutrients or 20-30 macronutrients, 3 or 4 major macronutrients. So you have to have different types of foods. And as Sir said, to avoid the processed foods, what is that you have to go for? Wholesome food. Basically, we don't recommend processed juice and all that. We recommend fruit as it is. That's all. Next, please. Avoid the junk food. Next one. Well, if you don't take this kind of balanced diet, maybe we end up taking those things in the other side. Okay, lot of pills and all. Next one. This actually one last slide. We have a food regulator in the country that is called Food Safety and Standards Authority of India. That is FSSAI. So the FSSAI taken a movement called Eat Right movement. Eat Right. When I say movement, it's not for individuals. It has to be done in a movement, like as a the way what all the different movements are done for solve the problems. To solve our nutritional problems, they have taken up this Eat Right movement, where they expect all parts of the society to be part of it. And you are one of the important component of that Eat Right movement. Next. So, well, coming to this year's nutrition theme, What is that? Did you remember? Suposhit Bharat. Even if you forget the other two, Sakshar Bharat and Sashakt Bharat, for Suposhit Bharat, what is the bottom line? Health. Of course, even you take other two components, health, nutrition, and education. Of course, environment, gender equity should be the indicator of national development. That's my last slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for sharing valuable insights with us. As I am taking internship in National Institute of Nutrition under sir's presence, I feel privileged to introduce more about sir. Dr. G. Bhanuprakash sir is a scientist G at National Institute of Nutrition and heading the biochemistry department. Sir did postdoctoral research at Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, and Case Western University, United States of America. Sir was visiting scientist at University of Michigan and the Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center. Sir's research is focused on molecular nutrition and non-communicable diseases. In addition to various aspects, sir, of human nutrition, such as deriving nutrient requirements, assessing nutrient deficiencies, effects of food nutrition on chronic diseases, and developing dietary intervention strategies. His extensive work on diabetes and its complications led to the development of functional food formulation for diabetes complications. Sir has published 234 research papers and 25 students have obtained PhD degree under Sir's guidance. Sir is a recipient of ICMR Basanti Devi Award, Scopus Young Scientist Award, and Sir also had Sir is a member of Nutrition Society of Young India, and Sir is fellow of National Academy of Medical Sciences, and Sir is fellow of Royal Society of Chemistry, and Sir is also a part of Telangana Academy of Sciences. He is also member of FSI Scientific Panel and many other scientific societies across the globe. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable insights with us today. Your expertise has undoubtedly enriched our knowledge. As we conclude today's event, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to you, sir. Any questions?
All of you should have some question.
Do we need to check according to the MUFA and PUFA values, sir? When we are selecting a cooking oil,
Yeah.
do we need to check the MUFA and PUFA values? Based on that, we need to select.
Yes. Actually, all the vegetable oils, predominantly N6 predominant. Some of them do have a little bit of N3, but that is the problem in our country because of the vegetarian predominant culture, that we don't meet our N3 fatty acid requirement. Therefore, always, nutritionists, wherever they go, they recommend to some extent flaxseed and also olive oil will give some amount of it. But otherwise, those who are, fish eaters, but again, that fish is not the freshwater fish, but seawater fish is good. That is good in N3. In any case, as I said, for you to calculate, it is very difficult. Therefore, you rotate the oils so that at least you are close to the requirement of N3, N6 balance. The N3, N6 balance should be for every 6% of N6, you should have, the ratio should be N6 by N3 should be between 2 to 10. But we have as much as up to 50 or 100. That means most of it is N6 only. So we should try to cover up for our N3 through other sources. It could be groundnut, has little bit, but then flax seeds or fish, etc. Other things. Okay, even egg has rotation. Yeah.
You see, those who are selected from this college, some of the organizations have told me that some of those students have done very well. Chala baga chesaru, S to Tech. In fact, they were quite impressed with this, the expositions of students and all. కాబట్టి మీరు మాట్లాడటం మొదలు పెట్టకపోతే you will be losing lot of opportunities. మీకు మీ అనుమానం సమంజసమైందా కాదా, మీ క్వశ్చన్ సమంజసమైందా కాదా అనే సంశయం అక్కర్లేదు. మనం అడిగే ప్రతి విషయం సమంజసమైంది. Because you are trying to dispel our ignorance, trying to know more about various issues and what. Please ask questions. I find this stunning silence to be slightly disturbing. మీరు మాట్లాడటం మొదలు పెట్టినంత కాలం మీ వ్యక్తిత్వానికి ఒక గుర్తింపు ఉండదు. The only recognition your personality has is your communication. So please communicate. Ask. మీరు అడగకపోతే ఇక నేనే మిమ్మల్ని ఐడెంటిఫై చేసి అడిగిస్తాను. Come on. You should ask. That's what I'm saying. ఎవరైనా సార్, any volunteers?
So when I said, madam says, what is the argument? I thought everyone will practice some level of cooking. But the reason is that since +2 onwards, I used to cook my own food because I was living outside of my family. So I know how to cook it and I know how to take care of my dietary or nutrient requirements. So therefore, I think in that context only, I said all of you, this is important for you to know what are the things. Yeah.
Your mother, I think.
You don't believe, when I was in US, after 4 months sharing with a friend, I decided to stay myself all alone. Many people said, you are crazy in the US, you want to live in a single bedroom apartment on your own. Anyway, I had some friends to help me to get the groceries and other things because I wanted to cook the way that I want to have it. And I had a different discipline. I get up early in the morning, whereas, for others, it's not the case. So I used to carry my lunch box, even in the US. Otherwise, everyone goes to the cafeteria. So these are the things that, you have to develop over the years.
నేనే అడుగుతున్నా, when you are not in a position to stand up and ask, on behalf of you, I'm asking. ఈ నేచర్ క్యూర్ వాళ్ళు ఉడకబెట్టకుండా తినమంటారు కదా, పచ్చివి, హౌ బెస్ట్ దే ఆర్. ఉడకబెట్టిన మంచిదా, కూరలాగా చేసుకొని తింటే మంచిదా? సో దట్ వెన్ వి ప్రిపేర్ కర్రీ, మెనీ థింగ్స్ విల్ బి యాడెడ్ ఇన్ దాట్. ప్రతిది కూడా న్యూట్రిషనల్ వాల్యూ ఉంటుంది మనకి, పోపు దగ్గర నుంచి. బట్ ఊరికే ఉడకబెట్టుకొని తింటే హౌ బెస్ట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ అండ్ హౌ న్యూట్రిషియస్ ఇట్ ఈస్. ప్లీజ్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ. సెమీ కుక్కుడు తింటారు, జస్ట్ కూరగాయ అట్లా ఉడకబెట్టేది అలాగా తినేస్తారు అన్నమాట, కూర చేసుకోకుండా కదా, అలాంటి ట్రీట్మెంట్ ఇస్తారు. కొన్నేమో రాగా తింటారు.
These are all different practices. See, what we convey is that what food has got what nutrient and how much it is required for you. The second point is you have to decide what is the practice, because some practice, as I said, that's why I put one slide, though today is not the focus on food safety. This point of eating అంటే మనం పచ్చి కూరగాయలు రా తీసుకుంటామా అన్నది, most of the time we don't recommend unless you are 200% sure that there are no contaminants, there are no pesticides, because most of it will be gone when you cook it or you wash it and then do different preparations. That's one thing why we recommend having this kind of cooking thing. The semi-cooked means without adding anything is your choice. If somebody does not want to add salt, it is your choice. We don't say that you have to add salt, you have to add oil. The question is, how do you meet your oil requirement is you have to decide. Are you meeting 330 grams of the oil in a day? Whether you add it to the vegetables, or you put it in the seasoning, or you put it in your fried rice, or you put it on your butter naan, choice is yours. We don't, as a scientist, we don't interfere with your cultural practices or your individual practices. We only give the information, what food has got what nutrient, and each of those nutrients, how much in what quantity is required for at different stages of your life. Now, one has to decide, the nature guru will give one kind of practice and somebody will say something else. I think that it's exactly this whole exercise that, once you know that what is required for you, what is the science behind you, you can decide which one helps you, But one thing I would say, some of these, compared to many things, germinated or sprouted ones are better than the ones. The reason is that, during the sprouting, some level of fermentation occurs, and also the texture changes and the bioavailability of the nutrients also is better than other forms in the sprouted ones. As far as these vegetables, పచ్చిగా తినాలా దాన్ని ఉడకబెట్టి తినాలా అన్నది depends on the practice. But పచ్చిగా తినేటప్పుడు మాత్రం you have to be 200% sure that there are no contaminants, there are no other issues with it. So, and there are some issues also. When you take that way, the biological availability may be different, because in the cooking, certain things get released. Because many of the nutrients, for example, if you take B12 or some of the other nutrients, they are bound to some proteins in the food or in the food matrix. So in the cooking process, the texture changes, some of them get released and they are better available. So that way, cooked foods, in principle, by and large, are better for your absorption and availability. But then, by practice, that's what we say. If you keep this lecture aside, when we go to the schools, all these questions are asked. So the practice has, over a generations, you know that this worked for, and in your family or in your community, there are no issues with it. You are absolutely free to practice that. That may not be in the mainstream science.
But now in India, we doesn't have the calculation.
No, that is mandatory, madam. Now, FSSI, no. Now it is mandatory. Actually, they are making it in a different way. This food labeling is a very serious business with the FSSI. There are different committees on that. Earlier, they used to put a small at the back of the pack, but nevertheless, labeling is mandatory. Now they are saying that it should be front of the pack label. So first, not at the back in a small way. They should show that what all that it contains.
There is an issue of reheating. ఇవాళ చాలా మంది ఇళ్లలో ఈ ఓవెన్స్ పెట్టుకుని రీహీట్ చేస్తున్నారు. అండ్ is it desirable? A lot of people say that this reheating will destroy whatever nutritive content is available. What do you say, sir?
Yeah, first of all, heating itself will result in some amount of loss. Whenever we recommend these things, that is also taken into account. Like, the whole content that I showed for raw foods, but we know that when these are cooked, how much loss can be there. So considering that, we have recommended. But as I said, whether reheating or first heating, there's some amount of loss, but that varies from nutrient to nutrient. Obviously, reheating will result in much more loss.
The rice, for example, rice.
See, basically in the rice, there is nothing else, madam. Carbohydrates, little bit of fiber, and a bit of some amount of 6% of the protein. So probably for rice, reheating may not be a big issue. For other vegetables and all, other food items, repeated reheating is not a good thing.
Not just eating.
ఇప్పుడు చాలా మంది ఇళ్లలో ఈ రెఫ్రిజిరేటర్స్ ఉండి ఐ థింక్ ఒక్కొక్కసారి లేబుల్స్ పెట్టుకోవాలి. ఇది సోమవారం కూర, మంగళవారం పచ్చడి, బుధవారం పెరుగు, ఇటువంటివో పెట్టుకోవాల్సి వచ్చిన అవసరం వస్తుంది సార్. ఐ థింక్ ఐఎమ్ షూర్ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ యువర్ హౌసెస్, చాలా మంది ఇళ్లలో రెఫ్రిజిరేటర్స్ ఉన్నాయా? లేని వాళ్ళని చేతులు ఎత్తండి. రెఫ్రిజిరేటర్స్ లేని వాళ్ళు.
Very unlikely. Only thing is, what we recommend is, don't keep cooked ones and uncooked ones together. Yeah, because in uncooked ones, there is a source of
దాంట్లోనే కూరగాయలు
yeah.
కుక్ చేసినవన్నీ కూడా పెట్టడం
At
జరుగుతుంది.
least you keep down in the down rack, uncooked one, and the top rack, and something, or a different rack. Okay, not side by side.
నాకే ఎన్నో ప్రశ్నలు వస్తుంటే మీరందరూ
Warm wishes, sir. Myself Satvika from BZC second year. So my question is, like as you said, 1 of 100 are suffering with diabetes. Just now, as you said,
Sorry.
in the PPT presentation, as you said, 1 of 100 are suffering from diabetes. Like my question is, what about heart stroke? Like nowadays, recently, many of the youngsters are getting attacked with the heart stroke, like very sudden attack. And there is no sense of getting heart attack to such a youngsters, and even a few of kids. And what do you say about that? Is there any nutrition deficiency in such cases also?
Yeah, in one table I showed which are the nutrient deficiencies that are linked to different diseases. good number of micronutrient deficiencies are linked to heart diseases also, including B vitamins and vitamin D, etc. But coming to the heart stroke data in the 1 to 100 study, there was no specific item to get that one, but I showed pre-diabetes. Pre-diabetes is a precursor for all these metabolic diseases, including heart diseases. That's why what was the prevalence of pre-diabetes? 1 in 10. So that means the one, whomever we are saying pre-diabetes, they are at risk. As of now, they may not have anything. When I say at risk, because compared to others, you are much more prone to get any of these diseases, including heart disease.
So next question is, as sir asked about reheating, right? And my question is about refrigerators. Like after cooking, they were storing it in the refrigerators. Is there any nutrition laws or vitamins laws for putting it in refrigerators for 2-3 days? Like,
very, very unlikely. The very purpose of putting in the refrigerator is for 2-3 reasons. One is that it won't get spoiled, because once you cook it and leave it there, there's every possibility of getting, the fungus or other bacteria, because this food is the source for all the bugs to grow, no? So therefore, why do we keep it in 4 degrees is that the bacteria or particularly fungus at ambient temperature, that is at 25 to 35 or 40, they are happy to grow. But at 4 degrees, they do not have that much of ability to grow and get amplified. So that's the first thing. Second thing, to some extent, when you keep it at 4 degrees, the loss is minimized compared to that you keep it at 35 degrees or 40 degrees. Particularly we are at a tropical country where temperatures are not less than 30 except in winters. So that's where some loss can happen. It may not be great loss, but most importantly, to preserve the food as it is.
one last question.
Take too many questions, not last question.
Like nowadays we are eating junk foods mostly, but the quantity or the quality of the food is not much as we eat at home. So yeah, so and of course there will be also a nutrition deficiency in it. So what do you say? Will you say like to stop entirely, to not to eat junk food, or will you say like it had to be eaten in a limit?
100%. See, all these, tasty things or once in a while kind of situation, nobody says no to it. Once in a week or once in 2 weeks, once in a month, have it like, that's not a problem. But if it takes you as a main course, like, you are only taking that or very repeatedly. See, the carbonated drinks, if you take every day about 200 ml or whatever that bottle, so there are a lot of sugar in it, and they also add a lot of preservatives, and which we don't recommend. Same way, this processed foods, whether it's a burger, pizza, whatever it is, if it substitutes your lunch or breakfast every day, instead of taking the typical lunch dosa idli, actually idli is a fermented food which has got a lot of probiotics and many micronutrients in addition to macronutrients. You are replacing that with a major thing. That is the problem. That means the question is, by regularly consuming this or more than required amount, if you consume it, you will not be meeting your nutrient requirements. That the whole presentation, what I repeatedly told you, how do you see that you are meeting your requirements? Instead of that, the meal composition or my plate, I said you should have 260 or 250 cereal, about 100 grams of pulses. All that gives you that 50 grams of protein, all the micronutrients. If this junk food is not going to give you, if you take repeatedly, certainly once in a while, nobody is going to say any objection to it. That's your choice. But there are some people, I don't want to take it all. That's also fine. But once in a while is not a crime and not a problem. Don't make it that as a habit, okay? And more than what is required.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Geeta, and I'm a mother of a toddler age 5. So my question is like, how do we know that the kid is getting all the nutrition required for his age? Is my question, sir.
Yeah.
Because at this type, you give anything, they deny. They don't eat it properly. So how can we calculate, or how do we know that all the nutrition required for his age is being getting to him?
Yeah, you may not be able to measure exactly, like let's say the way that I showed you the table, like, the kid should be having 500 micrograms of vitamin A or this many 400 international units of vitamin D. By giving some food, you may not be able to know it. But what I am saying, the way that a plate is shown for the adults, no, it will be slightly different for the no, younger ones and for the kids. What all that age that they require, like, we say that you give egg, okay, or you give fruits, either it's banana or other things. And in addition to the typical foods that we adults take, we also give. Like after 2 years, like, from 6 months onwards, there's a complementary feeding, right? In the complementary feed, that when I say complementary feed, along with the breast milk, to start giving something which is absorbable for the kid, because they have still not developed their physiology and all the systems thoroughly. So you have to give something which is more absorbable, assimilatable for that age. That requirement, I'll tell you, complete breastfeed will take care of the 1 year kid without even anything also. But then we want to recommend, because these days nobody goes for the breast feeding for 1 year, not even after 3 months. That's a different thing. But otherwise, breast milk will take care of everything. Now come to 2 years or 3 years onwards. So all this, whatever I said, is also applicable to them. Only thing is the quantity will be slightly less. That table I did not show because this target is all of them adults, but you have available that. If you want, I will share that also.
I'll go through it. Sir.
Yeah.
So can I ask one more question? So there's I don't know if it's a myth or a true fact that there are few vegetables in the combination in case if it comes together is not good. Example, if we say it's spinach and tomato cooked together, they create stones in our kidney. So I just wanted to check how far is that true or it's a myth?
Yeah, there is some substance which is not a big issue. The reason is that, those who have some issues with renal function, etc., etc. The reason is that, spinach and tomato, they say that these oxalates and then the formation of the stones when you eat with spinach. But as far as the scientific evidence is concerned, so far we have no documented thing of like that. But anyway, there may be a chance of it. What I say, the way how you prepare it, like they both can be prepared, eaten separately. But when you want to make them together,
so in case if it is prepared together,
it is not for everyone. Also, that risk is not for everyone. Those who do not have the ability of the renal function, like not to excrete some of these oxalates and things, will be excreted by the kidney.
okay.
Okay, but those who do have this problem, like, that's why you get these kidney stones and all that, no? In those, this more amount of it, that a combination of this, there is a chance of forming stones. But as of now, I don't think that we have so much data to say that, it is the case. But that possibility, keeping that in mind, particularly those who have some issues with renal failure and other physiological problems, putting them together may not be a good idea.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Sir, please.
Right. Then coconut oil, sir, you tell it is good for health.
Yeah.
So why in Telangana and Andhra region, why we are not giving awareness of that? And this, when you told the groundnut oil, it's more fatty than the coconut. So why we are not bringing that awareness for tasty or what? Sir?
No, we are.
Yeah,
not,
coconut
that's
oil.
actually good, nutrient rich.
Yeah, because in Kerala, they will be preferring that one, and they are more the literacy condition also the same reason. So yeah, intelligence and everything.
No,
And coconut oil for everything, for body pains and everything.
In our area, it's all again practice the way that we use and availability.
Yes, sir.
The coconut oil.
Yeah, as a science and from ICMR, we should bring awareness for this.
We have studies, not awareness. We are saying maybe in this work.
We are having studies and papers, sir, but we are not cultivating that. Like environmental awareness, this also we should promote.
Exactly. I think in
To
my
the government.
I have coconut oil, right?
So in all our areas, we are cultivating all palm oil, for this groundnut oil or whatever.
Particularly
Soya bean oil. But why we are not? So we should bring this up.
Nobody says not to take coconut oil, actually. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Actually,
Congratulations. Yeah.
coconut oil is actually, it has got short chain fatty acids, so that's actually good rather than the other saturated fatty acids. The saturated fatty acid, what you have in coconut oil is a short chain saturated fatty acid, which is not as bad as that of the longer chain saturated fatty acid. That's why coconut oil is.
From government side, we should bring this awareness.
Yes, madam. Yeah. Actually, there's a
like
coconut
plastic
bowl.
and everything.
Exactly. Exactly.
Our children are would-be mothers. Please tell them how best is the breastfeed and then how long they can go for that. How long? 1 year, 2 years, when
Actually,
they
our
should stop.
recommendation is
That is.
complete breastfeeding for 1 year. But for some reason, the practical reasons, office going or any other occupation related, from 6 months onwards, even if it's a complete breastfeed, from 6 months onwards, you can start complementary feeding. But full 1 year is the recommendation. And possible, we make it beyond that. So there is no actually second opinion on that. Anything else that you wanted to add? Why? No. Yes, yes. Even WHO recommendation is the same thing. Yeah, that is the practical issues, and no, more than that, many people have other reasons to avoid the breastfeeding, which I may not be able to convey here because you people know better than me. Yeah.
My question is, like the genome testing, do we also test the nutritional profile of an individual? Is there a scope for that? And prescribe the nutritive supplements or nutritious food, number one. Number two, how many of these nutritional deficiencies are transmitted in an hereditary fashion?
So, yeah, nutrition profiling means actually now genomic studies with the advancement of the knowledge and technology, all the sequences or the known mutations can be put in one chip and one can go for it. But nutritional profiling cannot be done in one single thing because there are different nutrients have to be used in different platforms. Let's say if I have to check the vitamin A, best method is either LCMS or HPLC, whereas vitamin D can be checked by different methods. So in one single panel, we may not be able to give you the entire nutritional profile, but it can be done. If not in one panel or in one test, but if somebody wants to go for a complete nutritional profiling, now the technologies and facilities are available. As I said, all the vitamins now one can. Only thing is how expensive and how much these technologies are available is the question. Only thing is in one single drop of the blood or one chip, we don't have that kind of facility as of now. The second thing, nutritional deficiency getting carried forward to the generations, it may not be as a deficiency as it is, but let's say when you have a deficiency, it has got its own physiological impact that we call it as epigenetics. For example, B12 deficiency or folate deficiency, the folate and B12 are involved in a methylation of many things, including the DNA methylation. So when you have a folate deficiency or B12 deficiency, your methylation pattern is different. Let's say mother, and that epigenetic imprinting can get carried forward to the next generation. Even if that kid has enough folate sufficient folate, this imprinting can get carried forward.
Now, sir, people say that diabetes is not a disease, they say. Few of them, they say it's not a disease. It's a way of life and they can recover from nutrition, diet control and all. Is it possible?
Yeah,
without taking medicine?
no. There are 2-3 components here. Whether it's diabetes or cancer, these days people start showing the videos saying that cancer is not a disease at all and all that. I think that's where our education is important. This awareness is important. Diabetes, and as I said, there are 2-3 components into the diabetes. Pre-diabetes, that means your glucose really shoots up to 140, 160. It starts from 100, 120. That's why now these days we have called something pre-diabetes. That is below 126, but from 110 onwards, 110 to 126 mg per dl is called pre-diabetes. And below to that, I showed that this is a metabolic syndrome. That is, even if you have glucose 100, but clubbed with high triglycerides and less physical activity, central obesity, that is called metabolic syndrome, which is also a stage for you. That means you are already on the journey to the destiny. So at that stage, pre-diabetes or early stages, if you change your lifestyle, your habits, foods, that will not go to the next stage. Rather, you will go back to the normal situation. That is the only stage we can call it as a reversal. But when it is completely established, very, very unlikely that you can reverse it.
What about cholesterol, sir? What is the limit?
These days,
Cholesterol?
yeah, cholesterol limit is 200, 220
Up to 250, it's
220,
okay?
240.
No.
Okay. But these days they are not talking much about cholesterol.
Hmm,
Your triglycerides is very important.
Yeah,
It should be more than, it should not be more than 150.
150, yeah. Okay, shall we stop, girls? Anybody else want?
So along with you, who is the other student who is coming to NI? But what happened in the last 3-4 days? I don't see you. She is the one who is coming to NI. Who is the other? I said, no, because lab is so much crowded at a time, 2-3.
She got viral.
Fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for enlightening us. As we conclude today's session, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude to Dr. G. Bhanuprakash, sir. I also want to thank each one of you for being part of this enlightening session. I would like to invite Srija of Biotechnology final year for vote of thanks.
Good afternoon to everyone present here. I am Shrija from BSc Biotechnology final year. It is a unique honor to privilege for me to submit a vote of thanks to our guest Dr. G. Bhanuprakash sir on behalf of Andhra Mahila Sabha Arts and Science College for Women. And my own behalf, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to our guest Dr. G. Bhanuprakash sir for taking a precious moments out of his extremely busy schedule to grace on this day. So your presence today has energized all of us and keeping our health diet what you focus today. Your wise and motivating remarks have really benefited on nutrition and balanced diet. And also, we are very much thankful for providing internships under you, sir, with help of our chairman, sir. It feels great privilege to learn many knowledgeable things under you, sir. And a sincere thanks to our chairman, sir, for providing us a wonderful opportunity. And thanks to our secretary, madam, and our principal, madam. I also thank Pramila, madam, head department of botany, and all the science faculty for organizing such a knowledgeable event. We gained a lot, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, actually it is my philosopher and motivator who makes me to come here and give this talk. And
Thank
we
you,
try to emulate him at least at 1 to 10%, not more than that. No, at this age, he goes across 2 Telugu states on every single day. He spends his time, and that is actually inspiring and motivating for us to little bit to catch up with him, but we will not be able to reach 100% to his level. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your presence today.
We passed through very difficult times about 3 years back during COVID. Every day was a testing day. Every day, literally. That's how we started this group. And Dr. Bhanuprakash is a great source of support. We started a number of Zoom sessions. And as he said, we started a discussion, major discussion on milk and milk products. And this health group has been able to link up a lot of people with the required support. A lot of people got the benefit. Every day it was a testing time for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Sir coordinates more than 500 bureaucrats, police officers, scientists, okay, which is amazing. Thank you, sir. Just leave it.
Thank you, sir. As this is a nutritional month, we outside of MV Hall, nutritional diet is displayed. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your presence.